Welcome to the spring webinar series, Curricula for Job Seekers, How to Land a Job at the Grow 2022 Career Fair. I am Connie Sparks, CEO of Waco Business Center and your moderator for the evening. This lecture series is part of the BLC program. What is the BLC? The LA Department of Cannabis Regulations has officially launched the Business Licensing and Compliance Assistance, also known as the BLC program, to assist social equity applicants in the city of Los Angeles with obtaining a commercial cannabis license and operating a successful cannabis business. Some of the BLC's program highlights include self-directed online education on topics related to running a successful cannabis business through our new learning management system, live webinars with subject matter experts like this one, checklists, worksheets, and other management tools you will find helpful as both a job seeker and operator. Please visit cannabis.lacity.org for more announcements on our evening expanding BLC program. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping rules. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and can be viewed after the editing process on DCR's website. You will be muted with cameras off for the duration of the webinar. This means that your camera and audio functions will not be available to you during this session. However, you will be able to see and hear all of the panelists. There is an open chat box where you can interact with one another for networking or comment on the information. I also want to reiterate DCR disclaimers and some of the LMS portal information. The City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulations does not endorse specific companies or products. The content presented here is for informational purposes only. This content was not created by the Department of Cannabis Regulations or the City of Los Angeles and is for informational purposes only. This information is subject to change and does not replace or supersede the Los Angeles Municipal Code nor constitute legal advice. You can call 213-978-0738 during business hours, which are Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. to speak to a DCR representative. Thank you. So let's talk about some of the LMS information. As part of the city's social equity program, DCR has launched the BLC Assistance Program Learning Management System, also known as the LMS portal, where you can now have access to these recorded webinars in addition to online courses and digital resources made especially for you. To access the LMS system for the first time, please visit tinyurl.com/DCRLMS, then log in using the email address that is linked to your DCR SLA account and use the temporary password 1 with the P capitalized. After your initial login, the system will ask you to create a new password that you will be using moving forward. Now, if you have any questions on accessing your account, please email dcr.sep for SEP at lacity.org. That email again is dcr.sep@lacity.org. And please note there will be a Q&A session following this event. Please ask questions about this subject matter in the Q&A box. We are gathering them and will be responding to as many of your questions during the Q&A session towards the last 20 minutes of this webinar. Again, you are encouraged to utilize the Q&A box at the bottom pane of your Zoom screen. Chat is available for interaction with other participants. If you use this Q&A box for questions, everyone will be able to see the questions when they are answered. So now let's talk about our amazing speaker, our subject matter expert, Carrie. Carrie Aver has an extensive background of effective employee and student career development in business, workforce industry, and academic settings, with more than 20 years combined experience in operations management, presentation skills, career services, employer relations, staff training, and team leadership. Her passion is guiding job seekers and incumbent workers to effectively developing their careers and gain sustainable employment. As part of her tenure with the College of the Canyons, she was responsible for job placement and developing the workforce development program at the College of the Canyons. And under Carrie's leadership, the Santa Clarita America's Job Center of California received the California Award for Performance Excellence in her first year of running the center. Ladies and gentlemen, Carrie Aver.
Sorry about that. I need to unmute first. I'm going to share my screen and then we'll get started. There we go. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This workshop, Prepare to Land a Job at the Grow 2022 Career Fair, is really going to help you learn what to do before, during, and after the career fair to turn your attendance into employment. That's my goal today, is to make sure you're prepared. So when you come to the job fair, you have the best odds of landing the job that you want. By the end of this webinar, you are going to know how to do all of these things and more. And there's going to be opportunities, as Connie mentioned, as you go through, to ask questions using the Q&A. Although Connie just went over the disclaimer, so I'm not going to read through this again. If you want to have that information she just covered, feel free to do a screenshot of this. It also has that phone number she mentioned that you can use to reach a DCR representative. Just a minute there. And we're going to start off today by polling our attendees that are here today. Because I want to get an idea. Every time I do a workshop or presentation, I like to know who's here and kind of where you're at experience level. So the first poll that's going to be popping up on your screen shortly, our event support team is going to share that with you. I was going to ask you how much experience you have attending career fairs. And if you could just pick the one that is most relevant for you, if you've never attended a career fair, if you've attended one career fair, two or more, or if you're a pro, if you go to career fairs and job fairs all the time, if you could go ahead and select one of those, the results will come back anonymously, but we'll get to see, we'll have a little bit better idea. I'll have a little bit better idea of, you know, where everybody's at today as we go into the presentation. Okay, it looks like the poll has closed. We'll see if I get the results up here. Okay, so more than half of you, or about half of you, have never attended. And then another 25% went to one career fair, and we got a couple pros out there. So I'm great, you know, I'm grateful to have that too. So hopefully even the pros will learn a few tricks today. So thanks so much for joining us. So I'm going to dive right in because I have a lot of information to cover today. So, you know, what to expect first at the Grow 2022 Career Fair. Every job fair or career fair is a little bit different. So I want you to know what we're doing with this to increase your odds of employment. There's going to be multiple companies at one location seeking employment, both on day one and day two of the job fair. Day one is completely virtual. Day two is going to be on site at LA Technical Trade Center. LATTC, I apologize. There's going to be employers from within the cannabis industry with a wide range of positions, from manufacturing to sales, customer service, and distribution, as well as ancillary, marketing, accounting, those other businesses that in the cannabis industry, they need those types of positions to fill those positions also. There will also be the opportunity for you to do on-site interviews. You'll be able to register for interviews in advance. And when you're at the job fair, you're going to have an opportunity, if there's still spaces available, to line up one-on-one interviews. So that's really a great advantage of attending a career fair like this, is getting right in front of the people that are hiring on the day of the event. Being at the job fair, you can expect that you're going to be able to stand out from the other applicants. You're going to make internal connections with the employers. You're going to make some connections with recruiters and hopefully some other job seekers at the job fair too, that might be in your area looking for similar types of roles or different roles within the industry. You're going to get to practice your networking and build your professional network while you're there. And then ultimately, the goal of this for our job seekers is that you're going to be able to find a job. You're going to land a job through your attendance at the job fair. So here's the 4 bullet points of the agenda we're going to cover today. I'll cover what you need to know to be successful in turning that opportunity into an offer of employment. So please put in the chat box or in Q&A if there's anything you specifically want to make sure that I cover today, because although I do have a schedule of slides and things I'm going to cover, I can always work in additional things if there's a specific question or need that you have. I want to try and make sure we get that addressed today. There'll also be additional time at the end for us to answer additional questions. So I'll do my best to answer all your questions either as we go along, or if it's going to be coming up later in the presentation, I might say hang tight, you know, it's coming up in a few slides. And I'm also going to let you know how to get additional one-on-one and/or group support leading up to the Grow 2022 Career Fair to answer any additional questions that may be specific to your own special circumstances towards the end of this webinar. And I think that's important because everyone has a different situation or scenario, why you left your last job, or, you know, why you're choosing this job now, talking about your experience. We want to give you as much support as humanly possible to make sure that you feel comfortable when you get to the job fair. Okay, and Connie, just keep me posted if anything does pop up, you know, that I know you've seen the slides, so you know what's coming up, but if there's something related to what we're talking about, feel free to just unmute at any time and jump in. So the first thing we're going to talk about, you know, is what to do before the career fair. Now, the content was not created by Department of Cannabis Regulation or the City of LA. It's for informational purposes, as we said. Yeah, let me go. So this is where I want to get started with you. So first off, and this link, Connie, if you or Deja could put the tiny URL in case someone has not yet registered, really the first step, if you're planning to go to the job fair, if you're even thinking about it, honestly, go ahead and get registered for the career fair. Because it's going to give you the opportunity to get notifications if there's anything coming up or more workshops and things that might be of interest to you. You'll start getting notifications about that. If there's any changes in requirements for the day of the event, it's also important for you to pre-register for that reason. Also, there's a link here, and we'll put that in the chat, and we'll put both of these in the chat towards the end of the presentation too, just to make sure if anyone arrives later, they'll have them. But LATTC is asking that you complete a COVID health check survey before coming onto campus for the job fair, for day 2 of the job fair. And you can get there by clicking on that tiny URL. And it's just a standard, some of you may have seen it before, it's a standard checklist asking, you know, have you been exposed to COVID in the last so many days? Do you have any symptoms? They're obviously going to be looking for, if you're attending, for your answers to, you know, to indicate that none of those things are present. But that will need to be done before you arrive. If you do forget and you show up on the day of the event, there will be people checking in that will give you another opportunity to complete it there. But just to streamline it, not to slow you down on the day of the event, I really want to recommend that you go ahead and get that done in advance. So the other items I'm going to cover in this before section, before the job fair, are transportation and parking, what to wear along with your can-do attitude, documents to prepare in advance, researching employers, how to research the employers coming to the job fair, And knowing your employment worth. We're going to talk a little bit about that, your personal strengths, desired salary versus bottom line versus experience, and creating your personal summary statement. We're just going to touch on that a little bit, but it's going to be important that you understand that when you come to the job fair. So transportation and parking. This map off to the side shows the campus where we're at, and the parking lot C6 you see on the map over to the right. On Grand Avenue is where you enter in. That parking is free on the day of the event, on day 2 of the career fair. So if you're driving, you can park in there. If someone's bringing you, they can park in there, and there won't be any cost for that. But really, I want to encourage you to not only just think about how am I going to get there and get there early, be there on time before the job fair starts, ready to go in, be one of the first people in there talking to employers when all the employers are still fresh, and to make that first impression with them, but also line up plan B for how to get there, just in case. Maybe your plan A, if someone's driving you, or if you've got a car. Some of us have cars that aren't always as reliable as we'd like them to be. Make sure you have another option of how to get there. We'd hate for you to miss the job fair. Other options that you might look into: rideshare, taking Uber or Lyft, a bicycle, depending on where you live, or as I mentioned, your friend, if you have a friend coming. That link in there, and we can put that into the chat too, that actually takes you to the LATTC website that has even more information about parking and where the lots are and all of that. Okay, so I want to dive right into what should you wear with your can-do attitude. So that attitude is really key. I've stressed it here a few times because, the way you dress, the way you present yourself kind of go hand in hand together. And at a job fair, when you head to the job fair, it's important to dress the part. So the clothes that you choose really send a message to the employers and the attendants, and you want to make sure that message is a positive one. So every workplace is different, and it's kind of your job to figure out your employer's dress code and expectations before any type of interview or job fair. So when I get to the part about, researching the employers, one of the things you're going to be looking at is, what type of environment it is. In the best recommendation that I usually use with job seekers is dress like the person that's going to be your supervisor. If you're going to try to make an impression, dress one up, because they kind of figure that when they see you the day you show up at an interview or at a job fair, that could be the best you're ever looking. So definitely step up and put your best foot forward. And what you should wear really changes depending on the position also that you want in the cannabis industry. If you're looking for a management role, a higher level position, then you're going to dress a little bit more professionally for this first impression than someone that maybe is in manufacturing. In both cases, we want you to be professional. And you'll see on this slide, I put a number of different examples as you kind of look over. On the right end, you have casual going all the way over to the left, which is more the business formal. And I'll just talk about these, just touch on these briefly. So business formal is really, only reserved for formal occasions, not typically interviews or day-to-day work. And it looks like that's out of order. I apologize. So the ones on the left are okay for the job fair. That's fine. The business formal is going to be more of the or the business professional is going to be the gentleman with his arms crossed over his chest in the suit, and the gentleman next to him with the vest on, heels, skirt suits, matching pantsuits, things like that is definitely business professional. Leave the tuxedo at home. You don't need that for this job fair or any job fair that I know of. And then you've got business casual, which, is also, if you're wearing khakis and a polo shirt or a nice button front shirt or a blouse or something like that. Those are all acceptable options for the job fair. What I would say leave behind the flip-flops, leave behind, the t-shirts, I know a lot of people sometimes wear a t-shirt underneath their dress shirt. That's okay, as long as it's not showing through and you don't see the print and everything showing through your shirt underneath. But these are some general recommendations. Again, it's going to depend on the position that you're applying for, the type of impression that you're looking to make, and how the supervisor for that position, would really be dressing for that role. One really popular business casual that is used nowadays, you see a lot of it, is nice jeans with a button front shirt, or nice jeans with a jacket, a shirt and a jacket. And that's also acceptable at an event like this, especially since it's outdoors. And I think in this industry, as long as you're not showing up in your ripped jeans and more of the fashion statement like that, you're going to be just fine. So you also want to be comfortable. So last thing I want to say about this is make sure that you leave the heels at home. I really want to encourage you to do that. As a woman who likes to wear heels, it doesn't work real well on the grass, and our job fair is on a grassy ground. Most of it, the interview rooms are in a building, but the other part is on out in a park-like area, and your heels are going to be sinking into the dirt. So go ahead and leave those behind. Any questions about what to wear before I move on to the next slide? Okay, not seeing anything from Connie. The last thing I want to mention is stay away from strong colognes or other scents when you get there too. You don't want anything to distract from your message, which is, your winning personality, your positive attitude, and really showing that you put an effort in to come as your best self on that day. Okay. So moving right along, prepare and gather documents. Now, I'm not going to show you how to, or talk really about how to prepare these documents. We have those other resources I told you I'll share with you that you can get additional help if you still need some help with your resume, perhaps, and some of the other documents. But these are really, some documents you should have with you on the job of the day, or on the day of the job fair. Resumes, and I say plural because you want several copies, even if you've applied online already with the employer, even if you have already completed their online application, or if you're coming and you're going to be filling out an application on the site with the employers, and there'll be tables for that also. If you have other things that the employers ask you to do, we'll have tables set up, and I'll be there to assist you with that. But make sure that you have a number of resumes. We're expecting, anywhere from 30 to 40 employers on the day of the event. We want to make sure that you have enough resumes for each of the employers that you may be talking on that day. References, I always encourage that you bring a sheet and keep one. Just keep it updated with, 3 personal and 3 professional references if possible. If you have that many, if you have a little less, that's fine. But that you don't necessarily, I wouldn't encourage you to give that to the employer unless they ask for it. If an employer is impressed with you, or if you interview with an employer and on the spot they say, hey, I'm really interested, we'd like to schedule another interview. Do you by any chance have your references with you? The more prepared you are, the more you're gonna find it much easier to convince the employer that that is the job you want to work with their company, you're ready to go, and that'll speed up your path from where you're at into the next job you're looking for. Bring with company research information. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the next slide. Also, I recommend bringing like an envelope or something to put information in, because I've done a lot of job fairs, and at the end of the day, we find a whole lot of random business cards and flyers and people's notes and stuff all over the ground. And it might be that note you took for that employer you were supposed to call back, and now it's sitting out there somewhere. So if you have a folder or something you can put it into, I recommend an envelope, because if it's just a flat file folder, it might fall through. That way you can keep the things together without losing them. Having a folder or binder is great to keep your resumes flat. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can just be simply a paper folder if that's what you have. But that'll help keep your resumes and everything neat and tidy before you give them to the employer. And then we also say bring detailed information for completing applications, because some of the employers may ask you to fill out applications on the site. I won't go into why some employers do that when you've already applied and then they ask you to fill out another application, but it is a common practice with employers to do that. So make sure that you have a sheet that has all of that information, your dates of employment, your supervisor, their contact information, those things you don't really put onto a resume. You want to have those handy in case you need to fill out an application. And then the final document is proof of a negative COVID test or vaccine. That's what the LATTC, again, that's what we're requiring for the day of the job fair. If you are registered in advance, if any of that changes, if any of that lifts or changes or whatever, then we'll make sure that we get a notification out to you before the day of the fair. So let's talk a little bit about researching employers. So you really want to stand out with the employer. And, you know, one of the common questions employers will ask when you're in job search mode is, well, you know, what do you know about our company? Why do you want to work for us? And so if you have some idea of what they do and how your skills or interests fit with what they need, then you're going to be able to showcase your interest in the company and your knowledge in it in a way that's really going to help you stand out and be more memorable. I can't tell you how many times I've been actually even in interviews where employers have asked this of the candidates, of the job seekers, and the job seekers didn't go past the first page of the website and really couldn't answer much or say much about the company to the employer. And ultimately, the employers want to hire someone that has been able to convince them that they want this job with their company. So that's your job when you're researching employers, is to know enough about them to have that impact. So here's just a few different suggestions I make. So how do you do that? You can go to company websites, but again, go past the first page, dive in a little bit, try and get an idea what the culture, the company culture is. What are the products they offer? Is it one location? Are there many locations? You know, anything you can find about it, and keep track of it, write it down. Have a notebook where you write down notes for each of the employers that you plan to talk to at the job fair or at the career fair. You can Google them, see what's going on about them in the news. That can sometimes be helpful, might be a good conversation starter if they just bought another company, or if they're expanding in a certain area or something. That'll give you some good potential conversation starters. You can, if you're on LinkedIn, you can check them out on LinkedIn. If you check and see if you know anyone with any of those employers, you know anyone that works there or used to work there, and talk to them a little bit, see if you can get an inside scoop about their hiring practices, you know, the application process, or even just simply working at the company, dress code, those types of things. Glassdoor is a great site for some employers, where you can go look, put in the employer name and see if other people have already reviewed it to give some feedback about their experience. But I encourage you to take that with a grain of salt. You know, in other words, maybe they got a new supervisor and that they didn't mesh with that supervisor, so they had a bad experience. That doesn't necessarily mean that you would have a bad experience. And vice versa, but it's still more information to help you out. Informational interviews is another way to research employers. That means reaching out to someone that either works at the company or used to work at the company, and asking for a few minutes of their time to do an informational interview where you'll just be able to ask them questions about how do they like working there? Would they encourage their friends and family to work there? You can ask questions about, do they have good benefits? How does the salary there compare to other employers in the same industry? And that could be really helpful, especially if you get to a point where you're negotiating salary. And what are the things you're looking for when you're researching the employers? The company culture, like I mentioned, location, where is it? If you're looking at the employers, you want to make sure that it's one you can get to. If you're on public transportation, or if you're driving, how far away is it? How far do you want to commute? Are there opportunities for growth? I mean, this is a growing industry. And there are many, many opportunities in this industry now and going forward to move into higher level positions if you apply yourself and this is something that you're looking to do. The size of the organization, how many employees are there now? The specialty, is there, you know, something they specialize in, and really the values of that organization, what's key, what's important to them. Writing a value proposition. So this is really kind of the short version of it, of, you know, what is a value proposition? Value proposition is really your sales pitch. I like to refer to it as a hook, because what it is you're going to give, you know, some people you call it an elevator pitch. You may have heard that before. You're going to have 30 seconds to a minute to really kind of introduce yourself and give a very brief highlight of your qualifications for the position and why you're interested in that position and that company. And so if you've researched the employers in advance, you can actually write one up that might be slightly different for each of the different employers. just again, you're trying to stand out and you want to make a very memorable, in a positive way, a very memorable impression on the employers. What they're really looking for, and you have to think about this whenever you're talking to the employers at the career fair, they want to know what's in it for them if they hire you. So if you approach a table at the job fair and you're asking, hey, do you have benefits? Do you have this? Do you have that? I wouldn't lead with that. Those are things that you ask once you've had an interview and they're expressing interest in you, then you can dive into that. When you first meet that employer, you're trying to make the impression, you're looking to be a solution for them. So you're really looking to, thinking about, what does the employer want from me? How can I help them out in this role? What do I bring to the table in this job? Is it my passion? Is it my interest? If you're looking to be a bud tender, maybe you just absolutely have always loved plants. You have a green thumb. I couldn't say that because most of my plants don't survive past a week or two after I've gotten them, but you may be able to. Education, do you have specific education or training in this management role, or experience in the industry or in a different industry? Maybe you've got outstanding customer service skills, but you've never been in this industry. That's going to be something you're going to put into that value proposition. If you need any questions, Connie, we got any other questions you want to share specific to what we've covered so far? If not, I'm going to keep
Nope, none yet.
Okay, great. So if you want additional help preparing, and I'm going to have a slide at the end that's going to go detail this a little bit more and have links, but I just want to let you know, because sometimes I get into this presentation, you might be thinking, oh, don't stress. We're going to make sure you don't need to be stressing about this. We are going to provide you with extra help with interviewing, resume writing, developing your value proposition. If you're thinking after my last slide, well, how do I do that? How do I come up with a good one? We can help you with that. I can help you with that. Our team can help you with that. Preparing your documents, we can help you with that too. We'll do whatever we can to make this as easy as possible for you. There's also going to be additional group info sessions, pre-recorded short videos coming up this week, and one-on-one support appointments available that you can schedule to meet with someone one-on-one about your specific needs. And as I mentioned, the links are going to be following towards the end of this presentation, as well as the dates and times of those different support avenues. So moving right along, so we just finished before the job fair. Any questions about what to do before the job fair before I go into what to do on the day of the job fair? All right, I'm going to dive right in then. So we're going to talk about check-in procedures once you get to the job fair, career fair, oh my goodness, the career fair, how to plan your time when you get to the career fair, how to network with the employers at the fair, how to track your contacts and responses, and I'm going to recommend a resource for you, and a couple others that you could create on your own. And again, additional support during the career fair that's happening while the career fair is going on. So before I dive into that, I want to find out, because I'm going to be talking about in this section, because the key thing when you get to the job fair is really professional networking. So if we can have our event support team is going to launch another poll. If you all could take a quick look at it and answer for me, what is professional networking? And just pick the question you feel best defines what professional networking, at something like a career fair or just in the midst of a job search. Asking someone for help finding a job is the first one, or connecting computers, or connecting someone looking for a job to an employer, or a mutually beneficial professional relationship. So go ahead and pop in your answer there. And this will give me an idea of, where you guys are all at in terms of networking, because this really is a key skill. I started networking when I was 18 years old, probably out of high school. And so now I've got it down pretty well. And the better you get at networking, it helps you even when you're employed to develop your careers. So as soon as the poll closes out, then I'll move on talking about networking a little bit. My event support team, are we about to close the poll out? And we'll get the results. So asking someone to help finding a job. That's a common thing. People think, oh, that's what it is. Connecting some for a job, connecting the two employer, and that is part of networking. It's a mutual relationship. And the last one is the most comprehensive, and most of you got that, so that's fantastic. It's a mutually beneficial professional relationship. So I like to start with just saying what networking is not. Networking really is not asking someone to help you get a job. Networking, because it is a very mutual relationship, you're trying to find out if someone has needs, and you might be able to help them fill those needs. People in the entertainment industry years ago when I came to California, they're master networkers because they'll ask questions, and you're going to do the same thing when you're talking to other job seekers and you're talking to the employers. You always have to have that mindset that you're looking, do they have a problem that you can solve, and thinking about how can I assist them with that. And you're going to make connections that may or may not, maybe, if you connect with, 20 employers, 15 employers, and some job seekers, that's why we're going to talk about keeping track of it. It's going to be important to keep track of it, because that might not be the employer you initially end up with, but it could be an employer that later on down the road, you're thinking, ooh, they have a new position there I'm really interested in, and you're already going to have made a connection with them, and you're going to have their contact information to be able to follow up with them. And everyone does it differently. A lot of times people will say that, oh, but I'm so introverted, I'm not good at networking. I have to tell you that people are more shy as opposed to really outgoing, do a great job at networking, because if you put on the mindset that you're going in there to really find out if someone has a need that you can fill, it puts you in a different frame of mind than going in there saying, I got to find somebody that's going to help me get a job, or I just want a job, any job. So I'm hoping at the end of this presentation, you'll avoid that, I just want a job, any job, and be more focused, because it's really the number one way. When you put that together, when you clarify what you want to do when you get to the job fair, which employers you want to talk to, which positions you want, you have your resume together, and you get there, you're going to be able to make the best impact on the employers, and it honestly will speed up your path into employment. And in the current hiring environment, it could speed it up very quickly, because when you're what they're looking for, a lot of employers are hiring really quickly. But I also want to say, don't be discouraged if it takes longer, because some employers are so inundated trying to fill positions that it takes them a little bit longer to get back to job seekers. Any questions about networking? I saw something popped up in the Q&A. Okay, well, we'll address that a little later then. Checking in at the career fair. Come on. So I really want to encourage you to show up early. Again, the sooner you get there, that old expression, the early bird catches the worm. There's probably better ones now. I'm still a little old school, but it just will reduce your stress level. Get there early, sit down, relax for a minute, bring some water, be refreshed, be ready to go in there and meet some employers. Normally at a regular indoor interview, you don't walk in with a bottle of water or anything like that, but at an outdoor job fair, it's perfectly acceptable to have a bottle of water in your hand to sip from before you go talk to the employer and after you leave the table. When you do come to the entrance, LATTC staff will be there, as well as some of our team, helping to check you in to make sure you have the required validation of a COVID vaccine or recent negative COVID test. And this will ensure that you are not stopped later and made to return to the check-in when you need to meet with employers. They're also going to verify at that time that you've completed the health check survey. The next step after that then is, and I believe, Connie, I think they're going to be getting a wristband when you walk in at the first, that indicates that you've met those measures at the first check-in point. Is that correct, Connie?
Yes, it is, Carrie.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. And then the next step is you're going to be checking in at a job fair registration table to get an attendee wristband, which shows you checked in. We know that you're part of the job fair. That way, if maybe you're expected at a table for or in the building to do an interview or something like that, hopefully you'll be on top of that. I'm going to help you do that here in a minute. But we'll know that you're there somewhere, and we can check in with the employers too if necessary to let them know if maybe you're running behind. But let's try and ensure that you get to those interviews on time. So at that second registration table, and I think we have some flags, Connie, as opposed to balloons, or do we still have balloons? You'll be able to spot it very easily. When you come into the first check-in, you'll be able to see from there, looking straight ahead, you'll see in the corner ahead of you, you'll see something very visual to make it very easy for you to know that's where I need to go next. So get your wristband. You're also going to get your agenda for the day there at the registration table, which will have a map with details of where each employer can be found at the tables and in the interview room. So you'll know where to go if you've already set up interviews. And you'll also, if you're talking to the employers in the career fair and you're able to still catch another interview slot that maybe is open, you'll know where to go. Is there anything you wanted to add on that, Connie?
No, I think you about summed it up, but if we can move on to the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so day 2 agenda. This is the second day of the job fair. The first day of the job fair, I don't have that information in here, but if you're registered, you're going to get information about both day 1 and day 2. The day 1 is virtual, and there's going to be different workshops. If you want more information about the cannabis industry, there's going to be a lot going on that day, so make sure you check that out. But on the day of the actual career fair, this kind of just gives you a quick rundown of what's going to be happening that day. There's going to be a lot going on. We've got a keynote speaker. We've got booths for you to, from 11 to 2 for you to meet with the employers. And also, as I mentioned before, there's going to be tables set up. So if you need some additional support, filling out applications, or you have questions, maybe you met with an employer, they're asking you to do something else, we're going to be there to help you out. There's also from 12 to 12:45 an expert panel with retail, distribution, manufacturing, and ancillary employers in the cannabis industry. And then the interviews are taking place between 1 and 1:45. So make sure that you get your interview scheduled as quickly as possible. And at the very end, we hope that you'll stick around to the end, because you're going to have an opportunity. Everyone that sticks around to the end will be entered in a raffle. You have to be present to win, and there'll be closing remarks. And we'll still be around then too, if you have additional questions or anything that you would like to know about. We'll be there to help you out. All right, so when you get there, we're still on at the job fair, right? When you get there, review your game plan. So before you get there, I want you to go to, if you're registered, you're going to know the employers that are going to be there. You will have done your research. So on the day of the job fair, when you get that map that shows you where all the employers are, I want you to take a pen. Oh, make sure you have pens. It's not a document, but make sure you have pens, pencils, whatever you need to be able to write with also. But you're going to check off on that map which employers are the key ones, which are the top employers that you are most interested in connecting with, which ones have the types of positions that you're interested in, and go to them first. So put an order in place, and also make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to get to the different things that you want to, not just the different employers, but the presentation if you want to attend that, and to interviews if you're scheduling that. And then you're going to start that professional networking. So I want to dive in a little bit more into networking. This is because I know I have so many people, and this is a pain point. They're not comfortable with networking. So first things first, here in the US, a smile is a great way to get started when you're connecting with employers. Even if you're not a person that smiles much, at least make sure you have a pleasant look on your face when you approach the employer. This is your first impression, and they're thinking, are you going to be a good fit for our team? And then you start networking. So look at any notes that you took before you approach the table. Look at the notes you have for the employers that you're approaching to see if there's anything you want to remind yourself of. Oh yeah, that's right. They're branching out into this type of product, or this is the type of manufacturing positions they need. Have your value proposition ready. Relax. I always put breathe in all these presentations, because I see a lot of people at job fairs kind of forgetting to just take a breath and relax. This is a mutual, networking event. You're looking to meet employers, and they're looking to find out if you're a good fit for them, but you're also looking to find out if they're a good fit for you. Consider switching that order around if If there's a lot of people in line to see one employer, then go to your next one. If that's a smaller line, and then come back. And make sure that if you are interested in that employer, if you talk to them, you did not have an interview, just simply ask them, are there any more interview slots available? And you might be able to get into one of those on the day. And then collect their contact information and ask them about the next steps. After you've given your value proposition, here's my hook, this is why I'm interested in you. You've had a nice little conversation. See if they have business cards, or if they'll give you, here, write down my email address or something to reach out to them. Now they're part of your network. Did you want to add something, Connie?
No, but we do have a quick question, and then we want to move along. We have one question. How long should a resume be? And if you can answer that very quickly.
I can answer that very quickly. I'm going to say that is a great question to come to one of our other sessions that we'll be talking about at the end, or do a one-on-one, because how long your resume should be really depends on what position you're going after, how much experience you have. Short and concise is great, but depending on the position, sometimes maybe you're going to have a couple pages. Honestly, for most of these positions, I can't imagine that you would want to go beyond 2 pages, but we want to look at each individual case to see what your situation is and what your goal is in employment. So was that quick enough, Connie?
Yes, thank you. We need to speed it up just a little bit. Okay.
All right.
Thank
So how
you.
do I network at the event? You can take a screenshot of this if you want to, but this will give you some different ideas of what you can do. One thing I want to say is, if there's a line of people behind you, don't monopolize the employer's time, because they need to try to get to everybody, and it is a condensed period of time for them to meet with them. You can always go back to and talk to them again later if there's nobody there and you had more questions or things you want to talk to them about. Before you leave the table, make sure that you let them, thank them for their time and restate what you're going to do. So if they said, oh, make sure you fill out an application, or make sure you go to our website and do this, or keep an eye out for an email. We'll be letting you know if you have an interview. Whatever the case is, just reiterate that. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be looking forward to seeing that interview, or I'll get this application out to you today or tomorrow. And again, don't forget to network with other job seekers. So. Okay, tracking your contacts. This is going to be real quick. I just want you to make sure that you write everything down. If you meet an employer, take some notes about your conversation when you walk away from the table. If they gave you a business card, write it on the back of the business card, put it on a job tracking form. If you don't have a job tracking form, what I'll do is, when we get to the Q&A section, you can ask me a question when we get there, and I'll let you know where you can find a really easy, already made for you job search tracking form, and a couple other resources where you can find it. The one I'm going to tell you about is on Excel. But organization is the key to managing a network, a professional network. So you want to make sure you keep track of all these things. Otherwise, you could end up leaving at the end of the day and you've lost track of who you were going to call and who was expecting you to send what to them. And so this is going to, again, reduce your stress, going to make this a pleasant, much more pleasant experience for you, and increase your odds of gaining employment. If you need assistance at the career fair, we will have career fair resource tables available in the back under one of the tents to help you fill out applications, send resumes to employers, and organize your job fair materials. But there's also going to be opportunity for you to get one-on-one assistance from myself or another career coach that's there on the day of the event. So if you come prepared, you really leave your stress at the door. You are planning to succeed. So that's why, the stress of breathing and doing these other things to make sure that you're enjoying this. Step away, drink some water if you need to, and then go back in to meet some more employers. So moving right along, what to do after the career fair. The key to after the job fair is really going to be follow up. Whoops. Oh, sorry about that. I did that. And if we can have I think this is our last poll, if the event support team could release the last poll. How often do you follow up with an employer after you make a connection to them? And this could be an employer that you got an interview with, or you didn't get an interview with, you just did an informational interview with them, whatever the case is. Are we going to have that poll pop up?
No, we don't have the poll up. So
Okay.
we're going to skip the poll.
We're going to skip on the poll. Okay, no problem. So no problem. But follow-up is really key. I cannot stress them out enough how important follow-up is when you're looking to gain employment. Follow up and follow through. You know, some employers, I've had employers in the past that literally had so many applicants for positions that they waited to see who followed up before they determined who got the next interview. So do what you say, you know, what you said you would do when you said you would do it. So if you tell an employer you're going to get something to them that day, then get them to that day. If you're at the job fair, it's on Saturday, let them know you'll get it to them Monday, you know, Monday or Tuesday. And then follow through on that, whatever you told them you're going to do. Check your network for other personal contacts. If you met with employers there that you're like, oh my gosh, this is great, and you still need, you know, didn't find someone in the company, maybe you're going to be able to, you know, come up with some other people that may have had some connections to the employer. Make follow-up calls and emails. That's why you want to keep track of it in a job search tracking form. And then after the fact, you can send cards or emails. I know this seems really, like, especially the card seems really old-fashioned, but it stands out in a job search scenario where you're trying to go to a job fair and you're trying to stand out. We don't get many cards and things. We get more emails, and the cards, you know, often end up on a person's desk or in their drawer for, oh gosh, well, I don't have something now. If there's nothing, I'm going to hang on to it. You just really want to be able to stand out. So you want to, okay, I'm going to go right into the next step since we're tight on time. Additional support, or sorry, next steps. So here's, I screenshot this page. This is kind of your steps. If you're going to the job fair, here's the steps I've outlined for you. Register for the career fair, research the employers of interest to you, sign up for interviews with the employers of interest, prepare your resume for the positions you want. Again, we can help you with that. Develop your value statement and practice it. We can help you with that too. Pick out what you're going to wear. If you have any questions about that, let me know. There are different places you can go if you need something else, a new outfit or something else to wear to be more professional for the job fair. There are a lot of resources out there that we're familiar with that we can help connect you to. Set up your transportation plan, sign up for additional one-on-one support if needed, and attend the career fair. And then step 10, which really is the key, which is going to move you forward in the job search process, is follow up to land that job. So I mentioned we have additional support. This is the slide for you here, and I'm going to have someone put into the chat box the link for the one-on-one sessions. So those will be open slots. Hopefully that, I didn't check that today, but hopefully those are all set. So if you click on it now, it's a Calendly link, and it will allow you to schedule one-on-one appointments with us. You'll describe a little bit what kind of support you want, and then you'll get someone specific to whatever your need is, what your questions are. And so you can schedule one-on-one that way, but we also have some additional group information sessions coming up. March 4th, we have a resume writing session, and these are all from 12 to 1:30. And that's an opportunity for you to come in, and I will go, you know, we'll go over the different segments of the resume on resume writing. I can answer all your questions related to, you know, what your resume should look like, what's the content, you know, how do you write one, how to get other resources. I'm going to make sure you have what you need at that session. And that's a group session. Then we have the leadership session and the management session, which will be obviously covering those topics. Leadership, you know, taking a leadership role, regardless of what your position is in the organization. Some tips and tricks of how to be a good leader. And then a management session leading towards, you know, if you want to move into a management role or you're in a management role and you have some questions about how to increase employee retention or anything at all related to those roles, both in leadership and management. These sessions are really led by the questions we get and the people that attend, because we just want to make sure that we provide you with all the support possible to prepare you for the job fair. Another thing too, if you have questions about how to verify that an operator or retailer has a license, I just want to mention that to you. Maybe someone can put that in the chat box too. At the job fair, all of the employers that we have coming will be licensed employers. But if you want to check for yourself, if you run into another employer in the cannabis industry that maybe wasn't at the job fair, or you loop back around 6 months later, you can go to www.capotcheck.com to verify the status of their license. In this industry, I think this is, that's a good extra step to take when you're in job search. So on that note, thank you for coming. We have, if we have any questions, I will answer questions now. Do we have any other questions, Connie, or no?
No, we don't have any other questions at this time, Carrie, but I do want to thank you for all of the wonderful information that you have presented and provided to our job seekers tonight for the GROW 2020-22 Career Fair. And thank you for attending tonight's seminar. Please note we have upcoming webinars specifically geared to job seekers. Tune in to the Learning Cafe with Carrie series for resources, tips, and a discussion on landing a job and working in cannabis, 12 to 1:30. If you haven't already, get registered at tinyurl.com, Pathways for Cannabis Growth. Also, March 4th, as Carrie mentioned, we have a resume writing workshop coming up, along with some additional workshops or webinars that are available to you. So please take advantage of those. And if you have any questions about the upcoming GROW 2022 Career Fair, call our GROW 2022 hotline at 323-303-344 for general event questions. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our presentation for the evening.